Hi, good morning, welcome everyone. In this panel, Fer Isabella from Limbo Music, Andrés Martin-Lopez from Blokur, Enric Calabuig from BMAT, Loredana Cacciotti from Downtown Music Holding, and Sara Gozalo from YouTube Music will discuss the possible technological innovations that might change the music industry in the near future. Thanks to you two for creating this conversation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And good morning, everyone online. How is everyone feeling? First day of the second weekend? Good. So yeah, my name is Sara. I work at YouTube Music, and I'm leading the EMEA and APAC team for the partner technology managers. And we are here today to speak about how innovation has changed the music industry over the last years. We have a great panel, a super diverse panel also. So let me introduce you. We have Andrés from Blokur, we have Enric from BMAT, we have Fer from Limbo Music, and we have Loredana from Downtown. So yeah, why don't we start with like small intros from yourself and telling me if like you're coming from like how did you arrive to the music industry? You arrive from like the tech side or from the music side? So yeah.
Yeah, so well, I can start. My name is Andrés, I'm CTO at Blokur, and for the last 10 years I've been working in this industry, and I came from a software engineering background with a strong emphasis on data, and 10 years ago I joined Universal Music. I was leading global data innovation teams, and now I moved into a company called Blokur, where we're focusing on making sure that music services can add music to the services. Services can add the music very fast and acquire licenses very fast. And we also focus on maximizing the flow of royalties back to creators and songwriters. So my history has been from being a software engineer to end up working in all sorts of spectrum across the industry.
Thank you. Enric?
Okay, thanks, Sara, for inviting us. Yeah, my name is Enric Calabuig. I work at BMAT. I'm the vice president of charts there. Well, BMAT, we call ourselves the operating system of the music industry. We try to be a transparent layer of data and services to allow other companies in the industry do what is more core of their purpose, say labels market and produce music, societies to promote authors in a certain country. And we try to work really with everyone. At Charts specifically, we work very closely with the IFPI. We do charts in more than 20 countries around the world. And the IFPI and the labels use this to measure how music evolves week after week and looking obviously at longer periods and so on. And my background is also technical. I started as an engineer and now I'm a bit in between both things.
Nice. Fer?
Hi. Thanks so much, Sara, for inviting us and YouTube and Primavera Pro. My name is Fer. I'm a musician, a music producer, and 20 years ago I founded the first digital aggregator in South America back in the days of iTunes. And right now we have our own technology helping record labels to grow. And we're working on a project with Brian Eno about how the nature has to speak with the technology and the humans, which is very passionate to work about. And I'm also the founder of a new music DAO on the blockchain called BeatCoin Music, but B-E-A-T, not B-I-T. So it's an experiment that we are launching to have the ecosystem of the music industry around the blockchain. So very passionate about that.
And Loredana?
I'm Loredana, and I work for Downtown Music Group, which is now quite a big conglomerate of different aggregators and administration of publishing. So our group kind of includes Fuga, Dashko, Downtown Music Services, Song Trust, Downtown Music Publishing, and I'm probably forgetting another kind of big, massive group of sub-companies that we have acquired. My role there is to look after the digital licensing worldwide of our entire catalog. And I come to the music industry from the legal side. I'm actually trained as a lawyer, and I started working for label side, the Ministry of Sound. And then my journey kind of took me to just specialize in digital, and I don't only look after the legal side, but also the commercial aspects of the licensing of our catalog.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. So, as we said, everyone is coming from a different background, kind of. We all end up in the music industry, but we have seen the music industry evolving over the last years, and mainly because of technology. Like, over the last years, we have seen how people have changed the way they consume music on the streaming services, and also how like audio matching has changed how we have been like paying artists and consuming the content. So around this, how has your job changed over the last years based on like how technology has evolved? Who wants to start?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's like the basic of what is music is technology itself. Like when you think about the humans, we first did music before talking, before speaking. So that's the first technology that I see that, in a way, changed us all. And in my specific life, being a musician, I always try to remember that first, that we were communicating, dancing, and singing, and making sounds before creating a language. And so for me, the fusion between technology and music is itself a technology. So that's more of maybe a philosophical aspect and a context on how it changed my life. But I was always a nerd since I was a real kid, and like mixing music and hacking things in my house and plugging to the 220 and getting electrocutes. It was part of my life all the time. And I think that the integration between music and technology is just a really great path to bring more music into the world. You know, this is the key thing, I think. Beyond all the trends and all the aspects and whatever happened and whatever is going to happen in the future, I think the main point is to just bring more music into the world, because it has such a powerful transformation on people, you know, on a positive side. When you see it as a commodity in technology, it's just you call it content. But then COVID comes, you know, and then people realize that, wow, the arts are really important for my survival, and the music plays a role there, so powerful. So coming back to your question, sorry for dispersing maybe, but I'm focusing all the time on that, on the human aspect of the technology, how it applies to music, you know? That's how I see it, at least.
Thank you. Anyone else? I mean,
I started freaking out, to be honest, when I was training, because Minister Sam was the one who took Spotify to core back in the time, so we definitely were against streaming, and I remember being worried that I wasn't getting enough exposure into the digital world, and then life took me into a direction where it's actually what I do day to day, and it was a conscious choice that I made at some point between going back on the label side or deciding to carry on specializing, and I decided to just carry on in that direction because I think it's fascinating. I mean, my job is never the same. Contracts evolve, and the digital landscape is evolving so quickly that just the type of agreements that I was doing a couple of years ago are not where I'm focused in the digital strategy of the group right now. And that's I think it's what's keeping my job completely different, evolving. There's never a down moment. I mean, sometimes you're just there and it's like, how are we gonna do that? And I think that is the fascinating things about my job. We need to find the solutions to carry on to run after, in a way, technology advancements and find a way to do it legally. It's tricky, but it's doable sometimes. Sometimes you just close your eyes and go. But I love it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, in relation with that, I mean, for you, it's mainly technology since the start. But in relation with what you were saying, like some years ago, we had YouTube Content ID, we created YouTube Content ID, and that basically changed the way that we were not only paying for the rights, but also like we had to have in mind the kind of like second part of the industry, that is the user-generated content, and how people were using the rights from the musicians and how we were paying. And this has been evolving over the last years. How has that changed, for example? I mean, for you, I know that on the data side, it might be tricky to manage these things, and also for charts, I think this is something that is quite relevant over the last years. How has this affected your work?
For me, when I started in the music industry was 10 years ago, when streaming was booming, and that was the Spotify and YouTube started to grow. And I saw the impact on the industry itself that technology was driving. So suddenly, labels and publishers starting to get trillions of daily data points of those streams that were reported to them about the catalogs, where they were streamed, in which territories, what demographics. So the industry had to was transformed because they had to invest in data engineering teams and innovation teams to first process all that data, then build tools and dashboards on top of that to understand how music was consumed in the DSPs, how UGC was actually impacting that. And then now more recently, what we do at Blokur, which is very focused on maximizing flow of royalties back, the growth of these streaming services, especially like YouTube, means that we're helping publishers to process YouTube data and also help them identify, for example, unclaimed usage to maximize the royalty income. So you can see how that explosion of streaming create new needs, and then those new needs create new opportunities that were actually solved thanks to technology.
How I see it, or how we see it at BMAT, is quite in line with what Andrés is saying. In a way, we are also like a services company for music companies. So we actually do the same royalty processing that we started doing since the boom of streaming shortly after. And to this, I want to go back to what Loredana was saying, that she said they're like trying to catch up with the new technology advances and what artists are doing, and then how to, I guess, work with artists in a way that allows for the new technologies or the new things that they're doing. And I think for us, we're like next in that line, no? Artists find something new, then music companies, like purely music companies, try to find ways of working with that, and then there's the whole royalty management, all the services that arise from that then we go and try to provide for everyone.
And it will keep changing because now with the Web3 and the metaverse, there's new opportunities for licensing, new paradigms for royalty collections, etc. So I guess in our job, it has to evolve as the industry evolves, and we somehow push through that, which in a way is good.
And how was for you too, like the appearance of like kind of user-generated content and how the industry changed? Because I think it was a change and it's still changing with the new platforms. How that was for like kind of like from the legal kind of point of view and the artist kind of point of view, and also label.
You want to take it?
Well, obviously from the legal point of view, I guess it started specifically with YouTube on everybody wanted to sue you guys. And then I think one of the fascinating things of how your company has evolved over time is the fact that now Content ID is taken as the model for every other UGC platform as the excellence that everybody else is trying to achieve. And I think that is actually kudos to the journey that YouTube went on. And it's quite fascinating because it's part of my daily conversation with other UGC platforms as to what are you doing with your content management system? Where are we getting there? When are we going to be finally getting to the level that YouTube is providing to everybody? So that is probably an example. And again, I started working in one of my jobs, I'm not going into details, but there were quite a lot of discussions at the time about, shall we take YouTube to court and what we're going to be doing? So it's quite interesting to see how that has evolved over time, and right now it's an example to everybody else.
Anything else to ask?
Yeah, I was thinking about the main point of this being the audience, right? Like beyond the industry, the legal aspects, the technology, all has to, go to satisfy the audience needs or problems or solve the problems. And the problem that the Content ID solved was massive. And the problem is still so complicated that it's a shame that a lot of artists don't even know the rules of the play. Like we have so many type of rights inside music that Content ID was key to organize that, and it was a mess, and it still is complicated. Like not even Twitter is accepting to apply Content ID, which I find it very strange, to not have. And at least, you know, I think we also should talk about metadata with this, because all the rights that imply for the artists or record labels, but so many other collaborators that are inside that piece of work, you know. And what YouTube has done is amazing, how to organize the publishing at the phonographic and, you know, and the neighboring rights. But we still need to professionalize, funny enough, in 2022, the music industry, especially the independent music industry, to understand the rights and how these things work, you know. Because otherwise, when they don't, the artists that don't understand something, they fear it and they attack it, you know. So I think it's key to have more clarity on this.
Okay, so in relation with that, we already spoke about like the past, what happened over the last years, and in relation with consolidating this kind of metadata, having like clear metadata, is a topic that we have been speaking about for as long as I remember. Every single conference we speak about this, and we are here to speak about the future.
Of course.
We have almost everyone represented here in this panel. Do you think it's possible? Is it a reality to have this kind of consolidated kind of metadata or clean metadata? Or is it possible?
Yeah, I think it is. I've been in this space for 10 years now, and the technology exists, and if you have the right people that understand the domain and you mix it with the technology, you can solve the metadata problem. And the metadata on both sides, on the recording, the consolidation of the recordings, and on the publishing. Even more important, on the linking between the recording and the publishing, because that's what really unlocks the value of the data. I think this industry suffers a lot from inefficiencies from a decentralized model. Like if you think about it, you have the record labels and the distributors sending their own version of the recordings in DDEX. Then you have something similar in publishing with CWR, which every music service or any entity that receives that data ends up having this messy view of the world. And they all create they all invest in consolidating and cleaning up that data, but they all have their own rules. And each rule is different. For example, the way Spotify optimizes that cleanup of data is to serve the user need of powering music listening experiencing, while maybe a collection society organizes slightly different because it has a different use case. So I think the music needs to realize that it's possible, and I think they will benefit from having neutral players that could consolidate and validate this data, especially on the links between recordings and compositions, because if you have that with accurate rights, then definitely you unlock a lot of the power and potential for making use of those catalogs and then collecting the money back through the royalties.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not that hopeful, you know. Well, it started all wrong. You know, iTunes built something in the beginning which was based on a technological company and not on a music-savvy company. And the first metadata that brought us carry on for so many years, and it's like a snowball of missing data. You know, I remember even calling Apple to trying to explain what tango was for that genre of music that should be applied, and well, they catch up, of course. And then DDX, which did an amazing job in the beginning, but at the same time we have too many versions. It's getting complicated, and so I'm trying to fight this fight because I really think it's the key for all the rights. Right now we are also forming a group of interested people and companies in blockchain because everything is going too fast on the NFT Web3 blockchain world, and everybody's minting NFTs without metadata. Just 2, 3, 4 lines, that's it. So we're gonna start it all over again. We're gonna carry this mess for the next, 20 years again. The music industry has this, conflict that I don't see in other industries, like maybe film or video games, that they can agree upon one single very important issue that shouldn't be around monetization at the beginning. Then you can use it to monetize. But we have to agree on all the partners involved, and the majors should take a big part of this because they have power. Also, Merlin Network has the power to try to all agree on a single metadata file. because it's not the same as 15 years ago, you know. And I even think that we should credit visual artists there and recording studios, and you know, the thing is going too fast. That's fun. The adaptation, like you said, is like it's fun, but it's crazy, and we love this job also because of this, I think. But at the same time, we can commit, you know, some mistakes that were done in the past that brought us here, you know. So that's my concern.
Okay, and I mean, we have like different opinions here, different point of view, but like also coming from like a distributor and like all this consolidated now amount of companies, all this data, you have all the independent artists. How do you think this could like co-live with these kind of ideas or goals?
It's a good question. It's a messy question to give, so it's a bit of a difficult one. I think that, I mean, obviously having one set of data would be the holy grail. And I can tell you that for us, imagine that at the moment I represent 23 million recordings and 3 million compositions. And just internally, how important it is to have the ability to see where do we own, what do we own on the publishing side of our recording, what do we have a 100% ownership, it's vital. So there is, I think, an urgency in the industry right now to really find finally a solution. Now, where the solution is coming, whether it's going to be, you know, blockchain solution, and I'm going to be honest, I think the blockchain has got, as an idea, the right points. Where I get confused is that to me, it needs to be an ultimate truth. And the moment that you have multiple blockchain systems out there, I raise my hands and I get, okay, but then we have multiple realities of data and I still need to rely. So this is where I kind of stop and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. But I do think, and I agree, that the technology is there right now, so we should be able to do it, especially on the publishing side where the situation is absolutely astonishing. Now it's just a matter of really agreeing and trying to put ourselves together and working toward finding this, you know, one data set that would solve so many problems across the industry on any scale.
Okay, and I mean, yes, and at the same time, I feel like also BMAT has done this consolidation in a way before, not exactly like that, but has been consolidating data from like different kind of places and aggregating them for charts. Like, iMining has been a big challenge. What kind of challenges did you find, like, kind of consolidating these sources?
Yeah, indeed, no. Like we do this in many of the services that we offer. For charts is a good example. The rules are very different to when we try to run digital distributions. The challenges are somewhere else. It's the same when we monitor music on radios and TVs that we have potentially received the same file from different partners. So yeah, I mean, obviously technology has evolved. In general, it's not really anything that was invented in the past 5 years or anything. It's more about how we see it, or even personally how I see it, about understanding where the big problems lie and trying to quite pragmatically sometimes address them, and kind of to also give my opinion about the possibility, whether it's a possibility or not, to have this consolidated set of data. I think, if anything, it's not necessarily a technological problem, as in there's more to do on the business side, to like bring everyone together and agree, which is unfortunately a lot harder than come up with a magic key to solve something. But yeah, in the meantime, we try to do the best we can with tools that we have that obviously are evolving to deal with the complexities that are there, which I'm sure they will never disappear completely. And kind of to go back to what Fer was saying, I think maybe one difference between audiovisual and music is that I think luckily music is so much more accessible to put out there, and that means you don't need a production house, you need very, very little infrastructure to create a song, and there's chances that a lot of people have absolutely no idea of what needs to be done there. I think we just have to embrace it, try to make sure that well, these problems are going to be there, try to deal with them the best way, but adding like a massive layer of complicating things for artists, potentially, I don't think that's the perfect solution either.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say, like, thinking about coming up with that one format for everyone to fit, and I think the industry tried many times, and with the best effort to try to agree on standards, and the standards exist. There's already TEDx is one of them, CWR exists, but I think we do that at Blokur. We consolidate this data a lot on the publishing or recording side, and I think you can put all the effort on agreeing on the standard, but then I think with the cultural technology you have these days, you don't need to go that way. You can just get all the data, apply data science and manipulations on top of that data, and then you can get remarkable results on the consolidation. So from a technical point of view, it's a problem that is solvable. We're actually doing that, and we're offering unified catalogs from recording compositions and the links between them. So it's just more about a question of companies willing to embrace working with these parties that will help them maximize the value of the catalogs by that consolidation.
Okay. Well, we are going to change a little bit the topic, although it's in line with what we just spoke. And we have seen a trend of more independent artists in the industry lately. And I think, distributors are key for this. Also, data that we are offering these artists is key, and how they access all the tools, how they produce the music is more is simpler. We are making things easier for them. Where do you think that this is going? What do you think that we need to help them even more? And again, what kind of, I think they're doing 3 questions here, but what kind of data and how we provide data for them could help the artists? But I think initially the first question is, where do you think we are going with independent artists and how the technology is helping on innovation? Who wants to start?
I think it's very tricky because even with the tools that the artists or independent labels have now, I find it, I don't know if my colleagues have the same experience, but I find it hard to find an artist that actually reads and uses the tools, and they're free. It's not a monetary thing. So that's the first problem that we have to solve, because if whoever it is, the manager, the label, labels are more responsible on this, but artists itself they have all the tools available to discover new markets, or even with Limbo Music we do a revision of all the data that we have for artists with them, and they find out things that they could find out in their own. And it's don't you see that you have a market in, I don't know, X country? So that's the first problem that we have to solve. How the induction of using data to think of yourself as an artist as a business model, that you have to find a market product fit, and you have the tools to do it. Well, start using them at least at the beginning, and it's like driving blind otherwise for me. It's just, conducting by your art, which is beautiful, and it comes from your heart, but it has to be a brain power also there. And where are we going? More data, better organized in the back end and in the front end. I think the user interface can be much improved by everybody that's doing things. I know it's a lot of work on the back end, but the front end should be much, much, much easier for artists.
Yeah, and I think this is related with what yesterday Pascal and his manager was saying, that most of the artists, they are learning how to drive in the industry, how to work in the industry as they just get into the industry and they learn from others. I think probably there is a lack of education around tools and around how they use it, and kind of the data and the things that we provide to them. And I think in that sense, probably there are more things that we can do, like the whole industry, to help artists to learn about these things. Like Loredana, you see this day by day with independent artists and all the artists that are reaching out to the distributor.
I think that, as a distributor, obviously within the group we have different types. We have a business-to-business side and a direct-to-artist, and education is definitely one of the biggest parts. We have entire teams dedicated in creating blogs and trying to educate people, both the Song Trust, which is from the publishing side, and CD Baby, CD Baby is even hosting a conference, in August to help, the education of artists to get them to understand the complexity of the digital world. And I think that, technology and innovation has allowed the artists to free themselves from labels. But then at the same time, you do need someone there to assist you to make sense of what's happening. And that's where the distributor usually come in. Because, the technology, and as you were saying, the user interface is basically what a CD Baby is basically in the middle. Because imagine if an artist has to sign up to every single streaming service worldwide to have their music made available. What these distributors are creating, first and foremost, there is a lot more that we do, but it's the ability to allow them to have a place where you just go, you put your music up, and then it's released everywhere. I think we have almost 100 streaming services or general, services worldwide where your music is going to be released. Imagine if an artist has to do it. So the way that I see technology is going in a way that is supposed to be facilitating the life of an artist so that they can actually, spend time creating and not trying to make sense of the complexity of the industry.
Yeah. And I think this is also in line, like what kind of data we offer to artists and how we offer this to them. Like, do you see that we need a way to facilitate this in a different way? Or what kind of data do you think that is more useful for them? How can we open data for them so they can actually understand it and use it to either, I don't know, understand how they need to use the platforms or understand how they need to create it?
I think it's a big user experience problem, right? Like as you said, like it's complex. So if the technology could be there to simplify the process for them to, I don't know, maybe you need to give the minimal amount of data possible, and then the platform should do the best to sort that out for you, right? So maybe the industry has to invest more on, from a user perspective point of view, how can I build my interface with this platform so it becomes a no-brainer, and as you said, I can be fully focused on my creative work.
As at BMAT, for example, we going to the question of like what are we doing for artists and how can we open this? We quite believe actually in what Loredana was saying, no? And the artist is an artist, and that's what they should focus on. And well, I personally would like to see them focused on their music, focused on putting on amazing shows, and that sort of stuff. But it's true that we do see some artists, and possibly Fair sounds like it's one of them, who are interested in going like a step further and seeing what else they can get from information about where they play in radios and identify markets, actually go into every single platform. It's something we've struggled very much in the past, to give an answer for this. We're more used to being like at the back end and actually helping with bigger companies, and something that we are trying to figure out ourselves. But because we see that not always there's this much interest, which we completely understand, and even think it's totally fine. No, it's very hard, and it will certainly take away from the music making if you start thinking about all these other things.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I have had meetings with artists who just came to me and says like, I saw that there is a peak of viewers in this point of my video, and I check the like analytics every morning. I was like, oh my God, you do check the analytics more than I do. So I think there is a mix. It's what you basically said. Most of them are, it's what they should focus on creating the music, but also there is, I think, an interest behind what all this means and how is like their music working. And I think it's also quite fun, because also at the end the generations are different and they are used to checking data. And then even when you post something, you are just checking how this is performing. Like even a post, like even an Instagram post or anything, like you are just checking. But I agree. I think it's like something that we need to probably improve on how we educate.
Yeah, but it's a complex problem because you have many steps to get results, which is actually the only thing that matters, right? Like for instance, in Limbo Music, we have our own API, which is ingesting daily trends from all the DSPs, right? So we have to administer all that data and show it in the easiest possible way to the artists or the record labels, right? And they have that data and demographics and which marketing campaign work, which one doesn't work, and in which country, what kind of people, everything. You have everything. Okay, cool. You understood the data. First step. Got it. Cool. Now, what do we do with that? So it's not that easy, because even if you get the greatest strategist on being a manager of an artist, which would be great, but labels I think are part of their job with the artist is to understand the data and create a strategy due to that data, and that has to be I think long term, like a macro vision, because otherwise you get lost on the post on how many likes you have for something. Cool idea to see, oh, I have a peak in the middle of this video, and so something resonated with people. But I think it's super important to think about what happens after you already teach them how to. They understood, they got it, and they say, okay, what do we do with this? And what we focus on having all this data now on my background, and what are my objectives? Yeah. Do I follow the data, or I want to go other way and create a new market? So that's my objective, and try to accomplish that. So I think we have all the technology is there, like we say many times in this panel, but the human aspect is key. Yeah. Key. Otherwise, who drives who?
No, I agree. I mean, I'm a techie, but I agree totally with that. I think that we need the human aspect, even to understand data. I think you need it. Okay, we are almost finishing, but I think we have a big question to finish. That is, this is recorded. We were speaking about this before. Let's get grown, and let's kind of guess what's happening in the next years, and what will your job look in like 10 years? What do you think?
Well, I think when you work in music and tech, the fundamentals of the job will remain the same, right? Like, tech is there to, let's say, understand the needs in the industry and try to use that technology to actually solve them. So that will remain the same. Obviously, in 5-10 years, the use cases will change, and the industry will be pushed into one direction. They will have new needs, and then we'll have to see what technology exists there to actually solve it, whether that would be the Web3 or the metaverse, or whether it would be a new licensing or royalty paradigm. And then if I think about what I'm focusing on right now at Blokur, which is a lot about facilitating the licensing and the collection of royalties, I can see that licensing probably will evolve with better matching techniques to enable fast licensing through vast catalogs. And I think in terms of then the royalties flowing back as a result of that, I can see the time to get payments getting shorter, even reaching the point of becoming even real time. Because if you think about the technology exists there, right? Like if you're a bank, you can send a transaction and you get the money within seconds, especially in Europe. So it should be the case. You should have music being used in all of these new online experiences, whether it's the metaverse or a DSP, and you should be able to get your royalties paid pretty much automatically. So that's what I'm thinking it should be heading. And then who knows what the metaverse and Web3 will open.
Nice. I mean, if there is any artist or songwriter in the room, I'm pretty sure we'll love to see this in the next 10 years. What about you, Enric?
Something is very much in line with Andrés. That's why we compete in some of these fields, BMAT and Blokur. But it really is about that, no? Like, let's see what comes up next and how we can enable companies to work with artists in the most creative way, or in these new ways of communicating, or in making music available. We do see this trend of a lot of different platforms appearing, and that is also something that we're trying to solve, like facilitating access to music and not having to dedicate years and years like YouTube did, and the lawsuits and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we really hope to be able to provide the data, so this is much easier, and ultimately see what's to come. We'll be ready there.
Okay, so you see yourself doing more or less the same in 10 years with more options, tools, and.
I think so. I don't think the ownership or royalties paradigm will change so much. Surely it will be more fragmented. It will be trickier in that sense. We'll see a lot more of direct licensing, a lot more in the artist, which makes some of these things a lot harder. And yeah, we'll have to up our game really to be there. And who knows, ultimately, no? We were saying before, we couldn't see TikTok coming, and then it became massive in no time, so might be something like that, and it does actually bring a complete shift. We'll see.
We'll see. So, Fer, what about you?
This is being recorded, right?
Yeah, it's being recorded,
Shit,
so in 10
okay.
years we're going to check.
So 10 years from now, I'm going to put my chips all in the casino.
Do it, that's it, that's what we want.
And let's see what my grandkids say in 10 years. I believe that my job is going to change depending on how the audience is going to consume the music first. That would be great. I think that blockchain will revolutionize every aspect of the economic and networking humans on a global scale from the point of view of the creators and the audience. I think that a lot of the things that we have now are going to exist for many, many years, and in 10 years we'll have the, I don't know, no Web 3, but Web 25. I don't know how many numbers we're going to advance with this. And I truly believe that we will log into decentralized apps with our identity on the blockchain. We are not going to have just one identity. We're going to have a lot of music NFT players, actual apps playing music, I mean, which will not be based on CPM or streams, I believe. I think there are going to be a lot of niche and small DAOs and group of organizations that are going to accomplish so many things that have to be coexist with other industries, which is when innovation happens. Because if we keep talking only between us, it's going to be all the same, Yeah. And I truly believe in that, and I hope we can accomplish that in 10 years. I see maybe 10 years is too soon, but I hope that humans, we can, around music, that again is the universal language, right? So many things to do. And that technology at the end has to be invisible for the audience, It's just easier and invisible, and you just wanna, be immersed in art, whatever it is, in 10 years, along with music and visuals, or just music and your ears, and it has to be really invisible and easy. But that simple solution comes from a very, very complex architecture that you have on the back end, and that's our job, I believe, that I would love to accomplish.
Perfect. We will check in 10 years. Let's see. Loredana,
now it's
what
very difficult to go after all of this. It's like, okay. It's hard for me to say, I'm going to be honest. I think what I find fascinating is to see the different usages. I think that there will be new technologies that will give different usage experience. So, for example, from my experience over just the last 3 years, my job has completely shifted from doing licenses with new streaming services, maybe abroad or worldwide, and right now, I think it's 2 years that I haven't done, beside the renewals of the existing ones, it's 2 years that I haven't done a new streaming service. What I do is all focus on fitness, metaverse, gaming. And that creates a shift in the type of consumption and the way that you're gonna use music. Sync is becoming essential, but it's not the 30-second sync that you might use on an advert, because the use of sync in a fitness app is the whole song. Yeah. So it's also going to change the way that you're going to produce it and the experience, but that doesn't mean necessarily that absolutely, I don't mean that, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, streaming is going to, I'm fairly sure it's going to be there. Now, how we're going to access it, whether it's going to be through a chip in our head, I have no idea. But I think that it's fascinating to see that there are new usages of music that are coming up, and so new revenue streams, because 10 years ago, I don't think any of us who's thinking about having a fitness app at home and exercising at home. The metaverse is hard to, I think, believe for my generation, but when we see the children on Roblox, that's going to be reality for them. And that's, for example, is where I see NFTs having a bit more sense. In my mind, NFTs are great collectible things, are going to be the collectibles of children in the virtual world as much as I spend a fortune, for my vinyl limited edition photograph or whatever, So this is what I see. Do I have a projection of how it's going to be? Too much. I'm not a visionary. I just try to follow what I see. But what I see is already interesting because I'm living the change on a daily basis, and I find it absolutely thrilling. But I'm not going to make a projection because I don't want my nephews one day just to laugh at me on whatever I say.
Thank you. So yeah, let's see what happens in the next 10 years. Thank you so much for this. Thank you, everyone. And see you in 10 years, and we check.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sara.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Thank you so much.